Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of the Brand Builder Show. Today is going to be, as always, another great episode. I'm looking forward to digging into a topic that a lot of people have confusion with. They struggle to understand fully how to go about trademarking and getting intellectual property for the products and the brands that they own. And so we're going to be diving into that today with our guest, Andrei. Andrei, welcome to the show today. Hopefully I pronounced your name right.
You did, surprisingly, but happy to be here.
Good man. No, it's great to have you. I'm looking forward to, talking about a topic which, there's some basic, solutions for, but there's also some more complex things that brand owners need to understand in the world of intellectual property, protecting their creation. So it's going to be a very, very useful episode for a lot of people, I'm sure. To give us sort of some background on who you are, firstly, would love to hear about your history and what brought you to this point. And then, we'd love to obviously ask you our favorite five and get some information on you about the different topics that we do that with. But yeah, start off, give us a bit of a background on who you are and how you got to be here today on the Brand Builder Show.
All right, so probably you can hear it from my name, maybe my accent. I'm originally from Russia. My name's Andrei Mincov, was born there and got into this industry because of my dad. He was a famous composer in Russia, and I just went to my first law school in Russia, and then he found one of his songs being used without his permission by a radio station that made it into an ad for Samsung.
Oh, wow.
And so he asked me if I could help him take them to court, which I said, of course. I had no idea about copyrights, had no idea about intellectual property, but nobody really did at that time because Russia just switched from Soviet Union to more free market economy. So it was new for everybody. And so I went there, and 2 years later, we won. I got passionate about protecting IP and helping people not get what they created stolen from them. Worked with the biggest international law firm before I left Russia, Baker McKenzie, for 5 years. Helped companies like Apple, Microsoft, DreamWorks with their IP. And then in 2007, I had enough of Russia and moved to Canada. And I had to go back to law school there again, 3 more years of law school. And I wanted to go back to what I was passionate about, which is IP. And contrary to what I hoped would happen, nobody wanted to hire me. And so I started my own firm after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm like, if I can't start on my own and, make enough money to survive, maybe this is not the path I should be, going on. And somehow it worked. I started my law firm, and very quickly, probably on day 3, I realized that there was something missing from it being a successful law firm, which is clients. Right? I never had to chase for clients. I never had to really drum up business in my life before. And very quickly I realized that, hey, it doesn't matter how much you know, doesn't matter how good of a lawyer you are, you need clients. So I went on the path of entrepreneurship, and hundreds of seminars, webinars, books, and trainers later, I came up with this idea of Trademark Factory, which is the company that I founded and I'm still CEO of. We're the only firm in the world that offers trademarking services with a guaranteed result for a guaranteed budget. I was so scared of starting something that wouldn't be different from everyone else that I came up with something that nobody has replicated 11 years later. So pretty happy about this. So last year I moved to Dubai. Now it's truly a virtual international operation. We primarily file trademarks in US and Canada, but really we can do it anywhere.
Yeah, nice. And how is living in Dubai? Because a lot of entrepreneurs will be listening to this and thinking, where they want to live when they've got a business that isn't tied to a certain location. The idea of, well, I could live anywhere comes up, and Dubai is quite a hotspot for entrepreneurs. How are you finding it there?
I'm absolutely loving it here. It's a magical place, really. You got the beaches and you got the skyscrapers, like next to one another. So it's not just a beach city and it's not just a business city. It's a perfect mix of both for me. So really, one of the one of the things that became a game changer for me in Canada, nothing's happening. There's really not a lot of opportunities to spend the money. So you're not as incentivized to grow the business, to become better, because it's enough. When you move to Dubai, you're surrounded with stuff that you want, and suddenly you got millions of different ideas how to make your business stronger, how to grow, how to expand, how to give more people the value that you can. So that's really been my biggest breakthrough in the last 12 months or so.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And we will dive into obviously trademarks and copyright, patents, that kind of thing in a minute, just to further round out your, an introduction for our audience. Love to ask a quick fire lightning round of your favorite 5 on a few topics. So first of all, do you have a favorite e-commerce brand?
Do I have to explain why or just name it?
You can give a brief explanation if you want.
Amazon. Really, yeah. I keep buying stuff from them, and they deliver no matter where I am. So
that's good stuff. Yeah. How is Amazon in Dubai? Like, it's growing, right, in the Middle East. It
is, and they're the only ones who deliver on time, which is great.
Yeah.
I think everyone else has their issues here. They say it's going to be here on a date. It's going to be there on a certain date.
Yeah. Yeah, no, interesting for our Amazon sellers that listen. It's a great market to expand into. So watch this space. It's definitely a growing one. What about a software or tool that helps you run your business?
Dropbox.
Okay, nice. Yep. What about an organic marketing channel?
YouTube. I got about 1,000 videos published about trademarks and free. Yeah. And we find that a lot of our clients come from there.
Nice. And what about a paid marketing channel?
For now, Facebook.
Okay. And do you have a favorite business book?
I got to name just one.
If you can. I mean, if it has to be more, that's fine. I'll let you off.
Build to Sell. John Warrilow.
Yep.
Was probably a big game changer in how I built Trademark Factory. Another great book. I mean, there's so many of them. Another one that I really found inspirational was The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Okay, well,
that was really the name of the author slips me by now, but it's one of the better managerial books out there.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's a memorable title, so I'm sure people will remember that. Yeah, Build to Sell is a very good book. Definitely worth every entrepreneur reading if you're trying to build a sellable business. And then Hard Thing About Hard Things. I'll definitely be checking that one out. That's good. Good stuff. Okay, well, let's talk about your expertise, the area you've been working in for so long now, and the difference really, I think, when new sellers, new e-commerce operatives come into the space, they will be thinking, well, how do I get a copyright, or is it a patent I need, or hold on, wait a minute, trademark, what do I need? That's the first and foremost question. So are you able to give us a bit of a brief explanation of when someone should get trademark, when they should get copyright, when they should get a patent for their products or their brand?
Yeah. Usually what happens is they bunch everything together and get things like, how do I patent my brand or copyright my idea?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Always gets a few giggles on our end. So copyright, let's start there. Copyright really is for protecting content. Right? Your music, your videos, your images, your books, your software, usually more of long form things that you're trying to protect the expression from being copied by someone else. Patents, they are about protecting your genius idea for products and more rarely ways of doing things where what you're protecting is the novelty around it, right? I'm actually going to give an example in a second. Trademarks are for protecting brands. Could be names, could be logos, could be taglines. So if you look at an iPhone, right? You got all of this in one small device. So copyright would be for all the apps, for software, for all the books that you're reading, all the videos that you watch. That's copyright. Patents is all the tech that makes this baby run. right? There's also design patents for how it looks. It used to be this famous thing with, the phone with rounded corners, and everyone kept mocking Apple for being able to get a design patent on that. But the funny thing is, when they did, nobody had phones with rounded corners, right? Rectangles with rounded corners, and now everyone has them. And for logos, for trademarks, you've got the logo, you've got the name Apple, you got the name iPhone. All of that, of course, is trademarked. So, and on top of that, there's also trade secrets, which is confidential information that has value because it's being unknown to most people. So there's different things that can be protected with different types of IP, and it's pretty neat structure.
Yeah. Obviously, the name of your company would suggest you deal only in trademarks. Do you dabble in the other things, or is it just trademarks?
No, we just limited our what we do to trademarks, and it was funny because when I said I moved to Canada, I started my law firm. And initially, it was like, we do this, we can help you with that, we can help you with licensing agreements, and then I made the decision. You know what? I'm just going to do one thing and do it better than anyone else in the world. And I went to my first networking event after I made that decision, came up with the name Trademark Factory. So, everyone's introducing themselves. I'm like, well, I'm Andrei, I'm founder of Trademark Factory. We can help you with trademarks. And this woman asked me, well, what else can you do? I'm like, nothing. Like, there's nothing else that we can do for you. And it felt so liberating to be able to say that. I love that moment, still remember it.
And he talks about it in the book, right? Built to Sell. John, is it Warrilow? He talks about just having one thing, because I think in his example it was like a design agency, right? And they just narrowed it down to logos or something. I think it was logos. That's all they do. Yeah,
productizing the service.
Yeah. I imagine that's made your life a lot easier with building the business.
Significantly. And look, this is what allows me to be here with the rest of the team being scattered around the world, right? I don't have to sit in the office. I don't have to meet with clients. I don't have to do a lot of things. So really that allows me to focus on the things that I'm the best at and, make sure my factory is a stronger business.
Yeah, love it. So let's talk about trademarks then. It's obviously something that's essential for e-commerce brands. I saw Sean, who is the CEO of Ridge Wallets, yesterday post on Twitter how he spent $250,000 on legal fees for IP protection in the last month, which is just bonkers. Absolutely crazy. But it's a real world we live in where people, you need to protect your brand, right? And trademarks are one of the best ways to be able to do that. When someone is looking to protect their brand, what is the best way to do that? They've obviously got word marks. You can trademark a brand name, a tagline. Also, you can trademark a logo, the physical look of the image of a logo. Which of those is the best to do? What's the priority there?
Okay, and you said the keyword here, priority, right? Because you can end up trademarking a million different things in your business, and it usually is a matter of two things. One is it registrable? Can it be registered? And two, do you have a budget for it, right? Because sometimes we have people who come to me and say, well, I want to trademark this and this and this and this and this. I'm like, look, we can trademark all of this for you. The question is it really going to give you a good return? So the first priority is always the name, because that's the thing that's going to stay there no matter how you're going to change your logo, no matter what new ideas your marketing team comes up with for your taglines. Usually the name is the stuff that you're going to be with. That's how people find you on Google. That's what people are going to type in the URL. So that's the first thing you want to own. And if you can't, one of our clients said it best, because here's our process. I'm just going to do a quick intro. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do a comprehensive trademark search to see if the brand you want to trademark is even trademarkable, right? And if it's not, we're going to go back to you and say it's not a good idea, right? And you can get all your money back. And so a lot of people start arguing with us about, well, maybe it's doable, maybe it's not. And the client said something that I really like. Says, if you are if you are married to a brand that you can't have, get a divorce. Right. And as painful as it is, it's true, because really owning a brand is more important than, having the brand that you love, but that's not yours. The last thing you want to do is build a brand for someone else that can be taken away from you, or that you can't really do anything with. If you look at it, Coca-Cola, they filed their first trademark in 1892. When they were selling 9 drinks a day, call it a lemonade stand with a dream. Today, they look at their portfolio of trademarks as the most valuable asset of the entire company.
Really? Wow.
Valued at, I think it's like $80 billion.
Wow.
They value it more than their distribution. They value it more than their recipe. They value it more than their people, more than anything.
Wow.
The brand is their most valuable asset, right? And imagine if they didn't own the name.
Yeah.
So the name would be up there first. Then there would be names of sub brands. Like for Apple, it would be iPhone, iTunes, iPad, all of that stuff. And then you'd have all the other elements. Would be logos. If the logo is important to you, there's a lot of companies where logo really doesn't matter, because nobody recognizes your logo. Like if you're a bookkeeping company, right? If you're people probably know you by, unless you're H&R Block, this green square, everyone knows that. But in most cases, they don't. So if it's not something that people recognize, it's not as important to trademark. The taglines are usually what I find with taglines is if the tagline helps you sell more of your stuff, it's a good thing to own it. Like, just do it for Nike, right? If it's something that nobody really cares about, if you have more, too much money on your hands, go ahead and trademark it. It's not going to hurt, right? Building a portfolio of brands is never going to hurt. Having a family of marks is better than having one. But if you're strapped for cash, focus on trademarking the stuff that really matters, and then spend the rest of it to build your business, then go back and trademark everything else under the sun. That's how Apple and Amazon own over 1,300 trademarks in the US alone.
Wow.
Right? Apple trademarks all its icons, all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah.
You talked about something being registerable. How do you define that when you start to do your research? Particularly, I think this is a great topic for someone that's just researching their brand, is just looking at potential brand names. How does the non-expert look at a brand name and think, yeah, this might be possible, or this one's a bit too similar? Are there any kind of levels of guidance that you can give with that?
Yeah, so how when you register a domain name, you go to a domain name registrar, you put the name that you want to enter, and they tell you whether it's available or it's not. Right? So it's very different with trademarks. It's exactly the opposite of the domain name situation, which most people don't realize, because trademarks are not just about identical matches. So if there aren't any, you're free to go. It's the opposite of that, because it's about, as you said, confusing similarity. They look at sound-alikes, look-alikes, mean-alikes, translations, added words, added suffixes, prefixes, all of that stuff. So they look at translations, does it mean something in the other language? And maybe there's something trademarked in that language. So when we do our comprehensive searches, it's a long thing. It usually takes several hours per brand for us to assess the risks. And what most people do is they go to one of those cheap trademarking websites. They type in their name. Oh, it's available. And my favorite example of that is to get people to type in Microsoft, as 2 words, software solutions, and see if that trademark engine is going to tell them whether it's safe to trademark. And usually it'll say, yeah, it's available. Great. Let's, which countries do you want to file it in? And well, you can guess how long it's going to be before you're going to hear from Microsoft's lawyers. Right? So it's not about trying to come up with a clever way to misspell an existing name. It's never going to work. Yeah. So usually, there's a lot of benefit of getting professionals do your trademarks for you. It's really pretty complicated process for someone who doesn't know what this is about. But the one thing I would never encourage people to do themselves, if there's, if you really want to save, at the very least, get a proper trademark search with a registrability opinion, because this is where most people fail, right? And like if they tell you the road is clear, if you're an entrepreneur, you probably have enough brains to file it yourself. Maybe you can, respond to office actions from the government when they come in. But it's the search that most people do wrong. And the big law firms, there's a reason they frame their searches as optional. Because they don't want people to do the searches. They don't want people to know that what they're filing is not registerable, because guess what? They make most of their money doing the follow-up back and forth with the trademarks office, fixing a trademark really that shouldn't have been filed. Right? And they say, well, we can do the trademark search fee. It's going to cost you, extra $500. Do you want this, or do we just file? And what do most people say? Yeah, let's file. I love this brand. I checked it on, I did a quick Google search. It looks okay, and the law firm says it's great. Really, the way I look at it is, it's just so sad that thousands of entrepreneurs are being taken advantage of this way because they don't know any better. Right. And one of the reasons I put together Trademark Factory the way I did is to give entrepreneurs who care about the result an opportunity to get it done right the first time around. That's how we got the 99.3% rate of success. It's just we don't file trademarks that are crappy.
Yeah, nice, yeah. You mentioned about misspellings, or sounds like it's similar to, with obviously the mature state of e-commerce and trademarking, it's obviously much harder to find a unique brand name now than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Yep.
A strategy that we have talked about in our community is misspellings to some extent. You see lots of brands now come up, and the brand name, if you say it audibly, sounds like one word, but it's obviously spelt different. Struggling to come up with an example right now in my head, but I saw one the other day and I thought, it's an example of that. Like they'll use an I instead of a Y at the end of the word, so it's spelt differently, it sounds the same, but they clearly have managed to register it as a brand. But you said about their spelling differences, and there's obviously a line there somewhere. Is it just a complete no for you, don't do that, or is it a possible solution? What are your thoughts there?
Well, great question. So it's a good option if it's misspelling for better recognition. It's not a good option if you are trying to copy someone else's brand that's already in the space and just come up with an alternative space of spelling. So, for example, with Microsoft, if you replace all I's with number 1 and S with 5 and O with the 0 and do that kind of thing, that's not going to help, right? Just because it looks different, you're still going to get the exact same problem. So misspellings, again, for better recognition, yeah, absolutely good idea. As a way to overcome confusion with an existing brand, not so much.
Okay. Yeah. And then you mentioned about investment. Is it defensible, you said, and then how much is it going to cost you to register? Are there changing factors which impact the amount you're going to have to pay to register a trademark? If it's a harder trademark to register, for example, is that going to cost you more? Can you give us some extra context on that?
Well, it depends who you do it with. If you do it with Trademark Factory, it's a flat rate that covers everything from start to finish, no matter what happens under the hood. That's the one of the big advantages of what we offer, because we take that risk on us. Some clients we have a good margin on, some clients we lose money on. We had a few case studies, really, some trademarks took 7 years with lots of fights, lots of fights with the government, fights with owners of other trademarks, and clients didn't have to pay an extra penny, right? So we didn't make any money on them, of course, but they made good testimonials. When you go with traditional law firms, what starts with a $500 filing can easily become a $10,000 process at the end of the day. And when you start with, cheap websites that you pay $69 to file your trademark, that they're going to do. They're going to file your trademark, and whatever happens after, you'll have to find attorneys to fix. So it's unpredictable, right? And here's the thing: USPTO, which is the U.S. Trademarks Office, they have their statistic that out of all trademarks that are being filed, 68% will get an office action at least once. An office action is when the government tells you they don't like something about your trademark application. And you're going to have now 3 months to respond, and if you don't, your trademark dies. So by their own statistics, only 52% of trademark applications eventually get registered, right? Half. And that's not good stats, really, because it takes so long. Right, it takes about a year and a half in the U.S. right now. It takes about 4 years in Canada. So you file that trademark, and you sit and wait. You're not going to sit and wait, right? You're going to start investing in the products. You're going to start investing in the ads, and then you find out you don't have it, so you have to go back to square one, right? So that's why I find that it's so crucial now to get it done the first time around, because just filing and hoping that it sticks is a really bad strategy.
Yeah, definitely. The timelines are pretty crazy. We just recently got a Canadian trademark back after nearly 3 years, and I just couldn't believe the amount of time it took. It's just bonkers. And then at one point we had to write literal physical mail. I can't remember what the issue was, but I had to send a letter to somewhere in Canada with some information. It's just honestly ridiculous. But I should have used your services, clearly. Do you do just US patents? Just US trademarks, or other places in the world?
No. So our initial office was in Canada. Now it's Canada plus Dubai. Probably about 75-80% of the filings are in US. About 20% in Canada, and maybe 5%. The remaining would be everywhere else. So we find people on the ground, find lawyers on the ground who do the actual filings. But what we do is not just, it's like, we're not a marketing firm that finds leads and sells them to law firms. That's very different. What we do is we take all the correspondence with the client, we take all the risks, we give the 100% money back guarantee in case the trademark doesn't go through. We're the only firm in the world that does that. Right? So we find people on the ground who don't give us the flat rate, who don't give us the guarantees, who don't give us the money back, and we wrap their services around, and that's what we give to brand owners. And we deal with law firms on the ground to make sure that everything goes the way it should.
Yeah. In terms of speeding up the process, you mentioned there it takes a long time. A lot of our audience will be selling on Amazon, and one of the strategies that's been talked about is registering somewhere that is a lot quicker. For instance, the UK, you can generally get a trademark registered in 3 to 4 months, and then using that trademark to get the protection in other countries. Is that a strategy you endorse, or are there some weaknesses to that strategy?
So yes, UK is significantly faster, and that's good potential strategy. What the strategy will not work for is to get an international trademark unless you have physical presence in the UK. So if you think, there's this thing called Madrid Agreement, which allows you to file one trademark application and just list countries where you want your brand protected, but you can only do that based on your trademark filing in your home country. Yeah, so you have to have a substantial connection to your home country in order for you to be able to use that application to file Madrid. So if you're an American or a Canadian, right? Canadian is a good example, and you just, you file your trademark in the UK because it's going to go there faster, you're going to get UK registration, but you cannot use that to file Madrid application if you don't have an office in the UK, if you don't have a factory in the UK, if you don't have something in the UK that would qualify you for UK being your home country. So maybe you have to have a company in the UK and then do the UK trademark. That's a possibility, right? But you have to think about this. You can't file. So when you file a trademark in the UK, they'll ask who's the owner. If you say, well, the owner is this Canadian company, then you can't use that as the basis for your Madrid application.
Is the Madrid application something that's time limited? So you have to do it. Is that the thing that's within 6 months of filing?
No. So 6 months is Paris Convention that allows you to backdate your international trademark applications back to the first trademark that you filed. But Madrid is sometimes used in conjunction with it so that you can use the same date. But it's you can file Madrid filing years after, and as long as the name is still available in those other countries, that's still viable.
At what point do you think it makes sense for someone to protect their brand globally?
So here's our rule of thumb: start with your home country first, right? Always. Then look at countries where you're making money, right? If you have customers that give you at least $30K per year, that's a good country to consider getting a trademark in. Third step is to look where you actually spend money, whether you have an office, whether you have marketing expenses. If you're running ads targeting Australia, if you're spending $5K a year, probably a good idea to trademark in Australia. And lastly is if you're selling physical stuff, trademark everywhere where you use your factories. So for example, if your market is US and Canada only, but you make your stuff in China, if you don't trademark in China and someone else does, they can prevent you from exporting your own physical stuff out of China to US. So you want to make sure that doesn't happen, so you trademark everywhere where you have factories. So and when the total number of these countries, that list becomes too big, like for example, if you're an app, right? If you're looking at trademarking in more than 10 countries, at that point you may want to look into Madrid, but you only want to look at Madrid if you're 100% sure your home application happens. If your home trademark doesn't go through for whatever reason, if it gets canceled, then all of your Madrid filings that are based on that application are going to die just automatically. So sometimes it's better to file directly anyway.
From a financial perspective, the Madrid option that's going to be quite expensive.
It starts making sense financially after, like I said, about 7-10 trademarks. At that point, you start seeing savings. Not before. So if you're thinking, 3-4 countries, don't even worry about Madrid. It's not going to be cheaper, and it's going to be less valuable.
Okay. And just to finish on then, you mentioned about getting trademarks in China, and I think a lot of brand owners are worried about that aspect and wanting to protect themselves in their manufacturing countries. Taking China as an example, again, when does it make sense to protect a brand name in China, for example?
If you make your stuff there, the moment you realize that that's the brand you want to sell. Because it's not uncommon for Chinese entrepreneurs to hijack existing brands and make money selling them back to you.
Very interesting. Good. Okay. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you feel would be good to share with the audience? Any key questions, key points that would be good to finish up with?
Well, I think one of the things we didn't really talk about because we assumed it, but I want to voice that, is really why you get a trademark, right? And there's 3 big benefits, and every business will decide which of these 3 are more relevant to them. For some, it's going to be all three. For most, it's not going to be all three. So the first one is you protect your own brand from being hijacked. So it's not about you going after others and suing them into oblivion. It's about making sure that someone else doesn't trademark your brand first and then force you into rebranding. We find a lot of entrepreneurs who are like, I don't want to be a bad guy, I don't want to go after other people. I'm like, well, how would you feel if someone goes after you? Are you going to go to court and try to fight over your own brand? And they say yes. And in that case, say, why would you risk having to go to court if all you have to do is just spend a couple of grand now and own it and minimize that risk basically to zero, right? So that's the one benefit. The other benefit is, yes, you can go after others, and especially today with all the social media, the Facebook groups, the YouTube channels, all of that. If you don't have a trademark, it's extremely hard for you to shut down imposters. With a registered trademark, there's mechanisms that make it significantly easier. Same on Amazon, right? With all the stores popping up with the Amazon brand registry, you need to have something filed in order to be able to use it. So that's the second benefit of being able to stop others from copying you. And your third one is you're building an asset that can last forever.
Yeah.
Right? A valuable asset your brand stops being a name or a logo. It becomes an asset that you can sell, that you can franchise, that you can monetize, and that's a big deal. And that example of Coca-Cola, I'm going to give you another great example. George Clooney with Casamigos. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's a mind-blowing story. So the guy. He and Randy Gerber, they come up with a name for tequila, the idea for tequila. And first thing they do, they go and get a trademark. Then they find a distiller in Mexico to make the darn thing. And 5 years later, they sell it to Diageo for $1 billion. They literally printed $1 billion out of thin air. And, to those who say, well, it's George Clooney, I'm sure he'd get paid significantly less to advertise other drinks for Diageo. There's a reason they bought it, right? And they bought it because he owns the brand. So it's
fascinating. It's crazy how you obviously that's a great example. Coca-Cola as well, that they value their IP more than their recipe, more than their property. The real estate more. That's bonkers, but rightly so, because it's a global brand that has such power, isn't it? So incredible, amazing. Well, I've found this very, very interesting. I'm sure it's been very valuable for a lot of our listeners. You've talked about your service a little bit throughout the episode, but give us a sort of a pitch to round us up with. Why should people come and check you out, and just round out any areas of the service that we maybe haven't covered yet?
Sure. So, the way, the 5-second elevator pitch is that really we're the only firm in the world that offers trademarking services with a guaranteed result for a guaranteed budget. Mm-hmm. What that means is that there's a flat fee that you pay that covers everything from start to finish, no matter what happens in the middle. And if it doesn't go through, you get all your money back, right? And really there's two levels of guarantee there. First is that we do the search in the beginning, and if we tell you there's a problem there, you can get all your money back and not do anything and basically say, pretend this conversation never happened. Or you can throw at us any number of alternatives until you pick a name that you love and that we tell you is trademarkable. That's really what most people do, because most people don't start with us to get a refund. They start with us to become, to own their brand. And if we tell them it's not going to work, they're happy to work with us to either massage it. Sometimes some small tweaks are required, maybe adding some elements. Sometimes they have to go back to the drawing board, and they do. So that's that. And the second part of the guarantee is if we tell you it's going to go through and it doesn't, we're going to do all the back and forth with the government. If we can't convince them that, the trademark should go through, if we miss something, after all of these months of work, you get all your money back. Right? We're the only firm in the world that does this, and I think that's what justifies The fact that the initial fee that we charge might seem higher than some of the $100 companies out there, but in the long run you're paying for the result, not the process. So that's what makes us different. If you want certainty of the budget, if you want certainty of result, Trademark Factory is really your only go-to right now. So go to trademarkfactory.com and fill out the form, and we'll help you from there.
Awesome. I was going to say, where should they go? And you've just told them. Anywhere else that you want to send people, you on LinkedIn or anything like that, or just to the website?
I'm on LinkedIn. Really, the other place I'd send them to is our YouTube channel. As I mentioned, there's a bunch of videos, close to 1,000 videos. If you want to learn more about trademarks, there's hours of free info about trademarks. If you had any questions, there's always going to be an answer there. So
perfect. Yeah, we'll include the links to both of those in the show notes. Andrei, I appreciate you coming on. It's been really insightful, and it's clear to me you certainly know what you're talking about. So thanks for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Pleasure. Awesome, guys. Well, I'm sure you got a lot of value out of that episode, as I did. Definitely check out the stuff in the show notes below. Check out Trademark Factory. Sounds like a great proposition. Some guaranteed results for some guaranteed, hard fixed costs. It's good to have that clarity. So definitely check it out, and we will see you in the next episode, same time next week. Take care.